Hi, everyone. This is ToRAISE Questions Doula podcast, and this is ToRAISE Hakun. I'm Executive Director of ToLabor, which is an international doula training and certification program. So here I am. It is almost the end of another month, and maybe when you're listening to it, we're now into July. Can't believe how quick everything transpires, and that summer all of a sudden will be over. I shouldn't say that. It's a beautiful day here. I know I talk about the weather a lot, but I am very weather affected, and being in Richmond, Virginia, which is a very extremely humid environment, it is lovely outside. It's warm, but not hot at the moment, and the humidity is low, and there's a lovely breeze, and walking here just felt heavenly. So I'm here today again by myself, but I won't be for very long because I have a guest coming into the studio. Her name is Carrie York, and she is a lactation consultant, among many other things, and she will be talking to all of us about breastfeeding and the experience in her way, whatever that will be, that I hope will enhance you as doulas, as childbirth educators, as people who already have a baby or who are planning having a baby, wherever you're at with this pregnancy year experience. So I'm really looking forward to that. I just wanted to mention that we have lots of workshops scheduled for this fall. So please make sure you take a look at our calendar at our website, tolabor.com. We will be in Chicago and Providence, Rhode Island, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, and many other places, Boston. And we would love to have you join us. If you like what you hear on these podcasts, please come take a workshop. Even if you've already been trained before, we do give discounts for those who have been trained already by another nationally recognized birth doula training program. It's always worthwhile learning more information and being in a group of people who are like-minded. If you are a listener who has no desire to be a doula, I still would encourage you to take the workshop or pass this information on to somebody who's never had a baby before and or are pregnant themselves. We have those who are pregnant come to the workshop, and those who are considering being pregnant come to the workshop to learn information that when so many of the participants will say to them, you are so incredibly fortunate to know this, all of this, before you even have your baby. I wish I had known what I now know. So it's a great childbirth education program in it itself. And we do welcome all genders. So please know that though we are attended mostly by those who are women, that does not mean we don't invite all to attend. We see this as a human issue, not just a feminist issue, that we can all be feminists, correct? Yes. So in a moment, I will be back with Carrie. Thanks. So we're back, and I'm here in the studio with Carrie York. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
I'm so glad you're hitting? Oh, God. So glad you're sitting here with me. It's so nice to have you in my studio, and especially so often when I do interviews, I'm talking on the telephone to people, so it's nice to be one-on-one. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself before we get started talking about what you're here to talk about?
Sure. I am Carrie York. I'm a RN and an IBCLC. IBCLC is International Board Certified lactation consultant. It's a mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in a local hospital. I'm in Richmond, and I work in a hospital. And what I do is I help mothers learn to breastfeed their babies.
And you also, though, have in your background, I know you as a phenomenal artist and a beautiful writer, and you also are a mother.
Yes.
And
yes.
a wife.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so my plates are very full.
Yes.
Many plates.
Yes, many
spinning
plates.
on, yes.
Yes.
And yes, the art has been on hold for a while, but I hope to get back into it soon. I love doing the birth art and making images of positive mothering, positive birth images.
Yeah, your work is beautiful. I have a piece actually right here in the studio that when you walked in, you saw sitting there.
Yeah.
Unframed because I'm bad at following through.
That's
but
just fine.
Yes, but there it sits. Yes, it's beautiful, and I hope you will get back into it. And when you do, we will make a shout out about it to people.
Sure,
but do you
thank
still
you.
have your Etsy account at all, or is
I
it?
do, but I currently, so I'm Carrie York on Etsy, and I don't have anything currently listed for sale, but if you really want something, you can shoot me a conversation on Etsy, and I've been known to pull something, go into the stash and see what I have and pull something out.
I remember when Midwifery Today had your artwork. It was just
That
so.
was such a thrill.
It was
such
so
an honor.
exciting.
It was their 100th issue.
Yeah.
And they reached out to me and said, we want to feature your art. I was blown away.
I know. I was so excited. And Carrie also was the original designer of our website when we first transitioned from Alice to labor, and I put her through the artwork is Carrie's. The art of course, I should have said that right from the beginning. That beautiful tree that we have had all these years. The website has changed, so
I love those hands.
Yeah.
I love the
it's
strength of those hands.
It represents
so much fun creating that.
I know. I remember it was a quick conversation about what I thought, and you just came back with one drawing for me.
That's right.
And that was it. Was it. It said everything that I felt I wanted us to be, and I still feel that. I talk about it often at the workshop, that it represents who we really are. The roots and the tree and the hands and the support.
Yep.
And the growth. So thanks, Carrie.
You're welcome.
So that's Carrie York. So let's talk about breastfeeding. And I'm kind of just giving you the opportunity to take this wherever you want to begin the conversation.
Okay. Well, I think that breastfeeding is an extension of the labor process. I see it as an extension of the birth and of the mothering. And so you become pregnant, you go through your whole beautiful pregnancy, you give birth, and that birth process continues as it develops. Then it develops into what happens with the breast and nurturing the baby.
Yeah, because, I mean, really, and I have spoke about this frequently, that we grow the babies on the inside of our body, but as soon as they're born, you have the opportunity to continue to grow them outside of your body. Correct. So it is a continuation.
And we have a cultural belief about separation of mother and infant. And all of the research is beautiful and coming back and showing us that really the space between the belly and the mother's chest, between the breasts, is the new womb, and the breasts are the new placenta.
And isn't it funny, though, as you said, the new?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a primate. This is a mammalian.
Correct.
This is what was... It's like when we say new age. It's not new age.
It's not new.
It's not new.
It's as old as it can get.
Yeah. It's bringing back what always was.
Right. And I mean new
I know what
for
you
the
mean.
baby.
Yeah.
the baby was in the womb, and now the new womb for the baby is but yes, what is new is really ancient.
Yes.
And we are not den mammals. We don't leave our pups in a den and go away from them and come back. Our milk is not designed for that. We are carry mammals. We are primate mammals, and our babies are intended to come to the chest to be held by mom. Mom's body will heat up to heat them up and cool down to cool them down.
Isn't that crazy?
If they are skin to skin with their mother.
Yeah.
Even the slightest barrier between the skin to skin it's not quite the same effect. It's amazing what they've learned in the studies. And especially like in the NICU population, and those babies can do, you know, we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. Well, we will then.
So in the process, the placenta is delivered, the message is sent to the mother's brain, the pregnancy is over, let lactation begin. Oxytocin levels just skyrocket in that first hour after birth. The mother's holding her baby. The bonding happens.
Can I ask you, does it skyrocket if she isn't holding her baby? Do you know?
So the data shows that not quite, no.
It flows, but it's not.
It flows, but it is not the same.
Okay.
And so mothers may have no effect from that, like in their production. They may have no emotional effect from that that's obvious or quantifiable, or they may have. They may feel disconnected. They may have a lower milk production. But that
if they don't have their babies
skin to skin in the first hour,
right?
It's really critical, and in the hospital settings, and certainly birth outside the hospital, but in the hospital settings in particular, there's an enormous movement toward focus on skin to skin and the golden, what we call the golden hour,
right,
the magic hour, and skin to skin contact, and the baby comes immediately from the womb to the mother's chest, and dried on the mother if possible, uninterrupted, no one else with their hands in there. We don't do medications. We might check the baby's temperature under their arm, but we aren't going to take that baby away.
But Carrie, I know there's a big move towards that, and the evidence has certainly pointed to it, and we already talked about it's ancient. And I know you're here in Richmond, so you can't speak to nationally, but is your sense that truly, though the message is there, do you think it's really being practiced on a regular routine? Is it a regular practice?
So it's not going away. It is considered a best standard practice. So in hospital terms, to get really fancy with that, hospitals are required by different agencies to meet best practice standards, which is evidence-based care based on research. This is how we practice. And so this has been widely proven. Skin-to-skin contact is a very proven, and there is in fact 10 identified best practice standards for healthcare facilities. And the Surgeon General, the AAP, the A1, every major...
How about ACOG?
Yes,
okay.
ACOG. ACOG. Every major medical organization that has to do with mothers and infants is on board. And it's was started by it's baby-friendly hospital movement. It's the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding.
Right.
And it was developed about 30 years ago by World Health Organization and UNICEF. And so they studied and gathered, and it has been proven multiple
right.
studies proven, and so internationally this is
the norm.
It's not the norm, it's the cultural shift we're working on.
Okay.
So it is a work in progress.
Right. Okay. So that is so people who are listening maybe in some community are like, yeah, right, this is the standard of practice.
Someday it'll come to you.
Yeah. That's it.
It is a cultural change, takes time, and there are a lot of barriers. There's a lot of resistance. Organizations they take time to change.
Yes, they do.
Opinion and
it actually has been shown that it takes 16 to 17 years
yes.
for what is evidence-based to actually be put into practice if there's not a huge push.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so, this began 30 years ago, and
Right.
we're just now seeing it
Exactly.
in America. And I know in the state of Virginia, we've doubled or even tripled the amount of hospitals who have attained what's called baby-friendly status in the last several years. In
That's
our
good.
state breastfeeding, we have we have a coalition that
Right.
meets with all of the hospitals, and we've all been working on it kind of collaboratively for the last several years. So every state is looking at this because it's part of the Healthy People 2020 goals, which is part of the
Right.
all of that.
Right.
So it's a big shift and cultural change in how we're doing things.
And I think the importance of this, and then we'll continue on,
Mm-hmm.
is if you are listening and your hospital does not practice this as a regular part of their practices, their
Mm-hmm.
protocols, there is so much evidence to support this
Mm-hmm.
that there should be a movement in those communities
Mm-hmm.
to show that and go to the hospitals and say, why is this not being done? If this indeed is the evidence that's been
Mm-hmm.
shown and is being practiced and is a healthy,
Mhm.
safe.
And the best, I think the most, there are a couple of websites that are
Mm-hmm.
where you can find the best information. One is in America is the Surgeon General's website. So the Surgeon General has on their website calls to action. So the Surgeon General's call to action to support breastfeeding is what you want, and you get into that section, and every amount of information you'd ever want is there.
Yeah, we have in our manual a section
so
from
clearly,
stated exactly
it
because of
explains
that.
everything and why, and has all of the studies and data and statistics backing it all
That's
up.
great.
It's wonderful. The other place to look is Baby Friendly USA or your Baby Friend International Baby Friendly if you're in a different country. Has there's also 10steps.org.
Okay,
so you
good.
Can look at
Good.
that.
Good.
Mhm.
That's really helpful
Mhm.
to everyone. So continue about how this is the new womb for the baby.
Right. So the skin-to-skin contact regulates the baby's sleep, wake, feed cycles. It helps to stabilize all of their vital signs and helps them adjust to life. So if you think about it, the mother goes through the birth process,
Right.
but the mother has also not just come off of life support.
Right.
So if you think about it, a newborn will come out. They're high on adrenaline. It's a really intense experience for them. They're born. They're looking around. They're alert. They may have quite a bit of alert behavior and breastfeeding, crawling to the breast. Their instincts are strongly intact. And they seek out the breast through all of their senses, as well as very, really, really cool studies studying the instincts of the mother and the baby when undisturbed and what happens. Website for that, Suzanne Colson is one of the researchers. It's called Biological Nurturing. You can Google that.
That's great. Good.
But the baby will crawl to the breast, play with it for a bit, really, really slow. You got to be really patient,
Right.
and really use your ability to sit on your hands and not get your hands in there, and just feel like you need your instinct as a supportive person. And your instinct, it comes from your own mothering instincts, is to jump in and help.
Right. Pull
Right.
that baby up and
Pull
get
that baby up, grab that breast, grab that baby's by the back of the head and shove it on.
Mhm.
And you gotta kind of stand back from that. In my experience as a lactation consultant, the more I'm hands off for the first few feedings, the better we get as we go to positions where mother's in charge. So really, baby comes out, they want to be in charge. They know what they're doing. They find their way to the breast. And when we start putting our hands in there, sometimes they'll shut down on us. Sometimes they'll get angry with us. We try to pin their hands away. That's about one of the worst things you can do.
Isn't
Baby,
it so
They're
interesting?
like, what are you
I know.
doing? Get out of my way. Why are you trying to prevent me from doing what I'm supposed to do? And so first they get angry with us and cry, and then they shut down. They're like, I have no idea what's happening here. I'm really confused. But it's really hard if a mom is anxious and she just needs, her instinct is saying, I just need that baby to eat. I need this to happen. And she may jump in and with her hands. And so having her kind of, you don't want to interrupt too much.
Right.
Like let those two have their time to sort of figure it out.
So if the mom is doing it, interrupting the baby's journey, for lack of a better word, it's not the ideal, but it's less of a issue.
I'd say, I don't want to say that mom's interrupting. I think mom and baby are in a dance, are in a learning. They are literally having the first moments of development of their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think mom's actions aren't really an interruption or an
I'm
interference.
glad you're saying that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Like mother is acting instinctively too.
Uh-huh.
And if supported by saying, you're doing fine there, that's great. And she, and I say to moms, you already know how to take care of this baby. You already know what you're doing. Nobody had to tell you to put your hand there.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it look, you saw that if you just did that little motion with your hand, then the baby was able to get it. I didn't tell you how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a deep breath and know.
Do you, when you're describing this, is this a baby who also may have been medicated during a labor? Does that change the baby's response?
Yeah, so let's talk about that and what can go wrong. So when this works great, it's typically, when it works like beautifully and flawlessly, and there are always going to be exceptions. But medications during birth can affect this. There's a YouTube video, and I wish I had the
baby crawl.
Baby crawl
on YouTube.
Do some baby crawl on YouTube, and you'll find where they show where the babies that are unmedicated do it so much better than the babies that don't, are a bit confused. And then once the medication wears off, many, many, many hours later, they sort of get it together. Some of them.
Right.
So the unmedicated baby is going to, in study in general, is going to do better.
But that does not mean that so because we know so many people have, like, the epidural rate across the country is anywhere between 60 and 100%. So and then there's the narcotic rate as well. Mm-hmm. And then we have the high cesarean rate. All of this is going to impact the baby, correct? I mean, regardless of what
it does, and it doesn't always mess it up.
No, and that's the point I want to get to. Yeah. It's the baby still is imprinted with natural.
Those
instincts are there.
Very, very often will override that. But sometimes
that's a slower
and I
beginning.
Wish I had more. I could give you a really solid statistic on that.
It's okay. They may, though, have. Some of those babies may have a slower beginning to what you're describing right now.
Correct.
Okay.
And you can't know, if my baby's not latching on in the first hour and crawling to the breast, is that because I had the epidural?
Right.
Or is that because,
point.
Maybe this
I'm
baby,
glad you're saying that.
What gestational age is this baby? Or maybe this baby's tired. Maybe this baby needs a nap.
Right.
Maybe this baby had a long birth. Maybe not.
Maybe the baby's just not ready.
His breath, and you don't know, and you don't want to judge and feel guilty
and guilt
and all of that.
Yeah.
No.
Good.
You have to come to your birth and your breastfeeding with an open heart and open mind, and be willing to navigate it. And you don't know what you're going to get. You plan and hope for the best, and but it's important not to feel bad if it doesn't meet some sort of idealistic perfection.
Right, and that's an important part. I'm glad you're speaking to.
There is no perfect birth. There's no perfect breastfeeding. There's no perfect baby. No perfect mother.
Right.
We're all just figuring it out.
Right. But to encourage this process as best as we can, to facilitate it as best as can be is what we're talking about.
That's right. That's
right.
right.
Right. So continue about the undisturbed.
So now, what if the baby, in the process of latching, they tend to open wide and play with it for a while, open wide and mouth gape and just, boom, land right on it. Sometimes they land in the wrong spot and it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
So then where does, getting that good latch, that deep latch come in? At some point, you're going to work with your mother on more hands-on approach,
mm-hmm.
right? But the first few feedings where I kind of say to moms, let's let the baby figure out their part first for a few sessions. And let's hand express to the baby. So that's a great skill to learn as well. And there's a video as well from Google Stanford hand expression video. You'll
good.
get it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows you how, if you can express drops of colostrum, that entices and encourages the baby. And then even if that baby can't wake, you can feed it. So if you express drop after drop into the baby's mouth, it'll absorb.
Right
in the mouth. Help keep the baby's blood sugar level.
Can they do that by dropping it on their finger?
They can do it on one by one on their finger. They can put it in a spoon and spoon feed the baby. They can put it in a little feeding syringe and do it that way. They can express it on the nipple and then have the baby touch the nipple to the baby's mouth.
Right.
And so, and is there a magic number of how many drops? Really unscientific. I once used some chocolate syrup how many drops does it take to make a teaspoon? Somewhere like 20 to 30. Right? So, 10 or 15 drops from each breast. And, I say, you can call that a feeding,
Yeah.
The baby's belly is only the size of a cherry on the first day. They only take about a teaspoon if they were to swallow it down.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I know.
That's just what we think.
I know.
We think too much. We think these things and they're just like. I
know. And people will say, I don't think the baby got enough.
Yeah.
And
I like to say, well, how much is enough?
I know, because also this image in other people's mind is that
bottle.
It's a bottle
full.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is way too much.
Right. So I like to say, well, and it's my favorite lactation joke is there are close to 6,000 mammals on the planet. There's some that do it in the ocean. There's some that hang upside down from a cave. Right. There's only one mammal that needs a lactation consultant.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's the difference between that mammal and all the rest?
Yeah, what is it, Carrie?
The big brain.
Yeah, it is. We
the big
get
brain.
in our way.
We think.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I was thinking about this podcast this morning or last night, somewhere in the middle of my sleep, and I was thinking how fortunate I am. At that period of time, I don't know, I knew I was fortunate, and maybe I wasn't, but blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my baby, my first child, I had no support around me. I had no family. I had friends, very few friends, and they were older and they hadn't breastfed. So I had no breastfeeding support around me at all. In the hospital, which is where I gave birth, I was given the information, only breastfeed for 3 minutes on each side.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a wonder you made milk.
And I ignored it, though.
Oh, good.
I just totally ignored it because it just didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. She liked to be on my breast. Mm-hmm. So if she wanted to be on my breast, that's what I did. And I came home and I breastfed. And I don't know whether I was just fortunate that we didn't have problems,
mm-hmm.
but I wonder if it was because I thought I could breastfeed. It made sense to me, and maybe I didn't use my big brain.
Uh-huh.
Maybe intuitive, primitive brain was in control, and I just did it. And I'm not saying that that happens for everyone, but I feel like what you just said, the big brain may have been the problem. If I had had too much input, my only experience with breastfeeding before was I had an older sister who I had been around, who I saw breastfeed 2 children before me, and she just did it. And I guess I assumed you just did it. It didn't, so it was just an assumption on my part, you breastfeed. And I know it can be more complicated that for some people, and that's another whole discussion. But I like your joke.
Yeah.
We're the only ones who need a lactation consultant.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, while you were talking, made me think about one of the other things is getting that historical perspective on why we do what we do. So birth was out of the hospital. I mean, it's literally the last 80 years that has really sort of changed, where we kind of lost, 100,000 and many, many, many more. But if we're just talking about Homo sapiens, about 100,000 years. We breastfed exclusively. We breastfed on demand. We carried our infants. It all seemed to work out. We survived as a species. Certainly there were problems, but we used, we had, wet nursing and so forth. So, then birth came into the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. We could do a whole other podcast on that.
Yes. Well, yes.
And then bottle feeding, really, formula was developed, manufactured, etc. And we reached an all-time low with breastfeeding in about 1970. Only 20% of American infants were ever put to breast.
I wasn't. I was born in the 50s. And my mom said there was no support.
Absolutely none. And
breastfeeding.
It was largely discouraged.
Totally discouraged.
So even the 20%, and I was born in 1969, and my mother breastfed me, but it was really kind of politically statement, you just didn't do it. And the babies that were put to breast pretty much were mixed feed. That wasn't exclusive. But anyway, long story short, in just a few generations, we lost all that knowledge of what is breastfeeding, how does it work, what do we do? We don't even know what we're doing. And so the lactation consultant profession came about in the 1980s, as well as all of this research and all of this wonderful stuff that World Health is doing. This whole, I think of it as like breastfeeding renaissance began.
Yeah, that is what it is. It's a renaissance.
Yes. And so we've been trying to figure it out. So at first we couldn't measure the bottle, right? This bottle, we know how many ounces, so we didn't know how to measure that. So we applied time. Well, it's this many minutes and this many minutes. And it was done very unscientifically. And we taught it that way for, something like 30 years. And people are still teaching it that way. But part of the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding is feeding on demand.
Right.
And so what we know from studies is that what you did with your babies was you just fed them when they were hungry.
Exactly.
And you didn't feed them
I offered them the breast
when they asked.
And sometimes they wanted it and other times they didn't. But I always offered the breast.
You can lead a babe to breast, but you cannot make them nurse.
Right.
But when they want to nurse, you can't keep them from nursing.
Exactly.
They're going to insist on it. Now, trust but verify. So we do have some great studies that show us, well, how many times in 24 hours should a baby feed? We have a minimum of about 8 times, but that shouldn't be your goal.
So
you want to make sure
2 to 3 hours.
Baby verify is my baby demanding enough? So it's not how many hours, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, okay, because I think that's important.
Really, really, really important. Is my baby demanding enough? Is my baby sleeping too long? When do I wake my baby? Right. So it's a minimum of 8, but that's kind of like saying, I want to be a C student in school, right? I want, you don't want to be like, I'm only going to feed my baby. I don't have to feed my baby more than 8 times a day. Well, if you slip from that, you're less than 8 times a day in a heartbeat. And the scheduling and rigidity about, I'm going to feed it and I'm going to put it away over there in its crib, right? That's a whole other piece of this, is that breastfeeding is more of a natural, symbiotic mother-baby connected process, not to be divided up and sanctioned off, and we're going to do this at this time and this at this time and this at this time. And we, as modern women, we want that. But we have this hunter-gatherer body. We have this milk that only satiates the baby for a few hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get that. So the bottom line is trust but verify. But the baby should minimally be eating at least 8 times a day, and as much as, get this, 24 times.
And I swear, because people used to say to me,
that'll blow your mind.
Yeah,
right?
because people will say to me, how often does the baby nurse? And I would think the better question to me is, when are they not nursing? Because I felt like sometimes they just lived on my body.
Right.
And for me, and I know this is really hard, and I think this is why it's important you're bringing it up, Carrie. I don't think people are prepared enough for what it really takes to breastfeed a baby, as far as what you just said, that symbiotic relationship and that amount of time, and that we can't quantify it. Like you said, the minimum is 8 times a day. But it could be that this baby needs round the clock.
12 or more and 24.
Exactly.
And what's neat is that researchers that have studied more primitive cultures and say, tribal people that still live in like a hunter-gatherer, right?
Right.
When doing the research, they would say, well, how many times do you feed their baby? And the mothers couldn't answer that.
Well, yeah, because
right?
how could they?
Right.
Yeah.
But by studying them, it was something like once an hour for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they ended up, if you add it all up, not feeding less than the mothers that try to schedule it. It's interesting. But you really have to respond to your baby's needs. And then we do know that there are some numbers that we can look at. Is the baby peeing and pooping? How do we know they're getting enough? Well, is there 1 pee and 1 poop on day 1, 2 on day 2, 3 on day 3, and up to 6, 7, and staying that high, staying that way. Now, sometimes the poops will slack off, but 6, 7 pees at least a day, and from there, and in the early period, those first 3 days, the first 5 days, this is where the rubber meets the road, and this is where I was talking about how the labor is an extension. So there is a labor of breastfeeding. This is my view of it.
Good.
Okay? So initially the baby comes, they're excited, they feed, then they sleep hard.
Yeah.
They sleep hard for like 24 hours.
A recovery sleep.
Yes. They've been taken off of mommy's life support system. They're going to come through their big nap better if they're in the new womb. Right?
Just being held.
Skin to skin between the mother's breasts, and mom's giving them hand express drops. Baby can cue and slide over to the breast when they need to and sleep as much as they need to. And they come out of that much easier, much quicker.
So go over that again, Carrie, and we're painting the ideal picture
we
here.
Are.
Okay. So I hope you
so
listening.
This is not,
yes.
Right.
Yes.
This is, don't ever put your baby down or don't take a break.
Right.
Of course not.
Right.
This is just.
Yes. Go over it again,
works.
though. So the baby initially feeds at the breast, for a period of time after birth. And that may take the baby, according to that,
couple hours, an hour or two.
Yeah. And they say that some babies, it's between 20 and 40 minutes before they actually
begin to root.
Yeah, to root and so forth. So you give them that good first nursing, the colostrum. They get their first.
It's like, and I can't emphasize enough. It's holy.
I agree, and I'm so glad you say it. It's like there should be
no one else getting in there and doing stuff.
Yeah, should be this sacred, holy ceremony that is occurring.
Yes,
because it's a ritual. It's a ceremony that is been defined before we had an existence in our mind of what that meant.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what you don't want to do, and I say this, and I don't want to be judgmental of younger mothers, but what I see is with our attachment to our cell phones and our social media.
I think it's a valid point, so go ahead and say it.
You do not belong on the internet or on your phone. Their babies have died at breast because the mother's looking at her phone instead of her baby. it's a problem. We actually do we actually train our staff on this now, because there have been incidents where mom's looking at her cell phone, and you can't bond with your cell phone. Like, it's disturbing to me.
So you're saying
mom needs to be
put
told,
the phone down.
Put the phone down. Dad needs to be told, you have time to post this on Facebook later. This is not, and you have time to let everyone out the world in. It should be whoever your closest people are. You'll never get this time back. It is sacred and precious. You can post that birth. You can announce it in an hour.
But so you're saying
the world can wait.
When you began speaking, we were talking about undisturbed.
Undisturbed.
And you're including, and I hear you, and if somebody is offended by it, well, so we apologize. But I think...
Well, I'm strongly opinionated.
Well,
so
yeah, you and me both, sister. But here's the thing. It's not that you're beating that person up, is how I hear this. It's making an awareness, because I don't think anybody has defined why you shouldn't be on that phone. I mean, I think we are in a culture, and that's a whole, I won't go into this, but our culture is all about documenting every single second of our life experiences. And so, of course, if that's part of your mode of operation, then you and nobody has said, but this is not a period of time to do it. So you are actually being a voice that some people have never heard. And so I appreciate that. And I hope those who are listening can appreciate that as well. It's not to condemn. It's to say, hey, here's the reason why you want to consider not jumping on your phone. This is this period of time that is really imperative to actually, in many ways, the long term.
Yes. And we all have cultural practices.
Right.
From wherever we come from. And this is a new form of culture.
It is.
And so be aware that there's safety risks.
Right.
And
besides, yes.
And if you want it on Facebook, have that third person. Maybe have that third person in the room that's going to take the pictures and do the posting.
Right.
But I have a lot of moms that someone else in the room is like posting, and they're like, "Don't post. I don't want it posted."
Right.
Right.
Well, that's our whole other social media conversation. But so going back to the baby feeds initially.
Yes.
And that hour is the golden hour. And then the baby
sleeps.
And then the baby sleeps. And ideally, during that sleep, the baby will wake up, correct?
Better skin to skin.
Better skin to skin.
But you may have to wake the baby.
And how often would they be considering waking that baby during that 24-hour period of time?
I'm comfortable. So let me explain that a little. I'm comfortable at about 3 or 4 hours. We are asking the question. I'm comfortable at 2 hours asking the question.
If the baby isn't awake on its own.
What we know is that hand expressing, whether the baby wakes or not, if you hand express your breasts, every couple of hours, your breasts are going to get the message, hey, we want the milk, keep it coming. It continues, whether the baby's capable of giving it that message or not. And just
Carrie's squeezing her breasts every time she talks about this. I love it. I mean, I do the same. I know I do the same thing, and it's just so funny. If we were filming this, they would see what you're doing. Right. So I'm just giving them a visual with this.
Right. Yes. So you express and you're offering. You can offer every couple of hours.
Right.
What happens in the breast at about the 4-hour mark is if there's no milk removal or stimulation of the breast at about 4 hours, the breast's going to go, oh, you don't want it? Like, it's a feedback system.
Okay.
So the breast will give a signal to the brain, oh, wait, she doesn't want it. Maybe slow that down, which is how milk is made and how the mother's body will eventually adjust to make enough for the baby.
Right.
So it's good to stimulate your breast every couple hours and offer to your baby, but don't sweat it if the baby can't do it right then.
In that first 24 hours.
Yeah. But every time the baby wakes on its own, assume it's hunger.
Right.
It's hunger.
Always offer the breast first.
They don't wake for other reasons at this age. This is the kitten that hasn't opened their eyes yet.
Right.
Right? When you think about other mammals, this is that little teeny tiny little squirming little thing that's trying to just work its way to the teat, right?
Right.
This is that phase. Don't expect too much of the babe. You know, it's not going to sit up and play and look at you and coo and smile. It's not there yet. It just needs time. And then what's going to, and encourage your mother, then hand the babe to dad.
Mm-hmm.
Him do skin to skin and you sleep. Enjoy this while it lasts,
So,
I say, because they don't want to worry. Oh, my baby won't wake up. My baby won't eat in the first 24 hours. What they need to do is sleep because it's coming.
right. We know they wake up hungry all of a sudden.
Right. So I think of this phase of the breastfeeding labor is like the early labor.
Yeah. Do life, rest, all of those things.
Do the slow,
Yeah.
some slow. The contractions are slow, you know, right?
Right.
And then it starts to go into active labor. So that's the baby wakes up.
So we hand the partner the baby
Mm-hmm.
who
Now-
does skin to skin.
Right. Now I mentioned this and I just went automatically to that because there's that whole other, we could do a whole other podcast on co-sleeping and all
Right.
of that. So why are we even handing the babe to dad? Well, because we live in a really modern, dangerous, like in the setting I work in the hospital, we cannot have the
litigious,
babe
yeah.
sleep on the moms or sleep with the mothers.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. Skin to skin.
Too many acts. It's just
Yeah.
too dangerous.
They won't allow it.
No.
So somebody has to be either holding the baby and be awake, or the baby has to be in the
Bassinets.
bassinet right
Mhm.
next to the bed.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. And ideally, even though if the baby has to go into the bassinet, that's not the end of the world.
No.
Ideally, it would continue to be that child will be held by one of the parents,
Yes.
especially in that first 24-hour period of time.
Right. But
Okay.
if the babe needs to go into that bassinet swaddled, it will. It
Yes,
will,
they will.
usually willingly in the first day because they're
Right.
very tired. So it may be beneficial for both mother and father and baby to all sleep in their separate safe sleep locations.
Right.
Right?
Right.
For a time and then up. So then what happens is baby comes out of their big nap and
Mhm.
they enter the cluster feeding phase.
Right.
So we call this the all-day buffet or all-night buffet, the feeding frenzy. Baby may be very fretful. Baby discovers their voice. Baby wakes up and goes, what is this crazy, loud, sharp place I'm in?
Right.
And baby gets really busy finding the breast, wanting to latch, not wanting to be put down, very protective of their food source. They got to remember that babe is not going to want to be in that bassinet in this next phase, which is going to last a day or two. And it's going to happen at night. Almost guarantee you. 99% of the time.
And why
Production is highest at night.
milk production
Milk
is highest
production is
highest at night.
And so it is biological.
Yeah, I guess it's our biorhythms and
Correct.
and shutting down of the brain and
Mhm.
okay.
And then also the baby, it's quiet.
Right.
Everybody's gone. All the stuff has
Right.
stopped happening. Mom
There is more
relaxes. And
right.
then baby's they're like little nocturnal animals. They're like, oh, everybody's gone. It's dark now. I can come out. Right?
Right.
And then they get busy. Well, we need to encourage our mothers to adjust their ideas of when they're supposed to sleep.
I love this because I remember a mom, and I've shared this story many times, but I think it's you just said it.
Mm-hmm.
She was a new mom for the first baby. She was a academic. She was 42 or 3 years old when she had this first child, and she of course went through the initial transition of love, and oh holy God, what did I do?
Yes.
I'm insane. This is crazy. And she had this moment when she realized, and she spoke to it. She said, I suddenly realized, oh, I needed to be on her daughter's name's time.
Mm-hmm.
And that shifted everything
Yes.
for her because she was trying to still be on her time.
Right.
And
So why do we want to be on our time?
Right.
And why do we want to bend the natural process to meet our needs? Well, because that's our culture.
culture, yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it is so ingrained in everything we do. And there's so many books out there and websites. The internet is a dangerous place for new mothers. I'll tell
Yeah.
you that,
Yeah.
because there's all kinds of stuff out there to just get under your skin and undermine. Well, your baby should be doing this, and it should be doing that, and it should sleep for this long, and it should feed for this long, and it should.
Yeah, we should all over ourselves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
So you're saying babies, those nights are very common of the baby just wants to nurse.
So this is where I say things like, this is where you pay for breastfeeding. It's free, but this is where the hard work. This is the labor.
Right.
This is the labor and the pushing of the process of the breastfeeding. So the baby is going to want to eat every hour. It is going to want to be there, and it's going to not be interested in being in that crib. It's never known any home but the mother. Right? And so wants to get back on. So then, if allowed, now doesn't mean you can't take your breaks.
Right.
Or you shouldn't, lose your mind if you got to put your baby down. If your baby's been feeding every hour for the last several hours and you need a break, It's okay. And babe can go to dad. You can try all kinds of soothing techniques. I love the happiest baby on the block stuff with the 5 S's and the swaddle and all those things work. Settle the baby and get some sleep. And then suddenly, somewhere in that process, the milk's in. So we have our birth. We have the birth of the milk. And then wonderful things happen. That baby. And I like to say, too, that the milk's there all along. Colostrum. I hate the word colostrum. It sounds like a disease or something, right? It's just not a pretty word to begin with. But it doesn't sound like milk, and it doesn't sound like something you'd want to feed somebody, that word. It is your milk.
Right.
Colostrum is the baby's food. It is the baby's milk. It's highly concentrated. It's miraculous. We could do a whole thing on that.
Right. It is.
It's going to expand.
It's the gold.
It's going to get watered down with more fluid, with more water. It's going to expand in volume, and it's going to change consistency and component. And the components are going to change. It's going to get more fatty, which is going to turn it white. It's going to look more like milk, but it is the milk. And it's just going to rapidly change. So it seems like there's that expression. The milk comes in. The milk is in.
Yeah, the milk is in.
Milk's been in since 20 weeks of pregnancy.
Right.
It's going to change rapidly. So it seems like it wasn't there, and it's suddenly
exactly
there. Because it happens quick. After the cluster feeding. The cluster feeding is the signal the baby gives the mother's body to say, I'm ready now. And it comes. It changes over. And then the baby gets fat and happy. Oh my gosh, it's like Thanksgiving and they've just eaten and they just can't eat another.
They're satiated.
They're so satiated, and they'll sleep anywhere. And then your breasts fill up and your baby fills up, and your breasts fill up and your baby. And a lot of it just gets so much more obvious and easy.
Right.
Oh, my breasts are full. My baby happens to be cueing that they're hungry around the same time.
Except, and we can't go into, except when it doesn't go that way.
Except for when it doesn't.
But we're talking the ideal here as well. But engorgement is, I remember waking up and it was like, oh my God, what happened to my breast when they did suddenly the whole constitution of the milk had changed, and I have these enormous rocky breasts that the baby, would latch on, and the milk would just come squirting out, and they would be choking almost because they couldn't take so much in, and then they would get what they felt was enough, but for me, my breasts were so full still. So how do we address this?
It's a balancing act, and you really need to get the milk out. And I'd say that you got to leave the milk in, but you got to get the milk out. So if you take your finger and you press it on the tip of your nose, and you feel how hard that is, you're getting engorged, you're getting full. It's time to empty the breast by babe or by pump. It's time to do it. If you get hard spots as hard as your forehead, if you touch your forehead and it feels like a rock, then you're very engorged, and you want to get the baby on. You want to let the baby nurse as long as the baby will take as much. If you feel any hard spots or areas, it really is better to pump to empty, store that milk, and then try to stay on top of it. Because what happens is the baby demands all this milk.
Right.
They've never had this much milk yet. They may be ready for, you may initially have more than the baby needs. Now, when you pump to empty, that's not every time. You don't want to keep pumping and pumping and making it more and more and more.
Right.
But you may need to empty your breast so that you don't develop plug ducts and mastitis.
Right.
So you want to get your breast as soft, preferably by the baby. So hand massage and compression, while not necessarily as soon as the baby gets on, because it might shoot too much into their mouth.
Right.
But as the baby gets along in the feeding, and it's good to sort of like assess, are there hard spots in my breast? As the baby latches on, what's hard? Where does the hardness feel? And after that initial letdown where the baby starts really swallowing, and if the baby sort of settles out a little and it's not shooting as much like you were talking about. If you have a problem with it going that very active letdown response.
Right.
Sometimes you can let a little out before you latch the baby.
Right. Just do a little hand expression.
This initial engorgement phase as the milk transitions, it's a 2 to 3 day process.
Okay.
The breasts kind of get larger and fuller,
my neighbor,
and then they kind of settle out.
Yeah, my neighbor saw me and said, "Ooh, see, the titty fairy came for a visit to you." And it was like, yes, indeed.
Oh, yeah. I can remember standing and looking in the mirror and like, oh, my God.
Yeah. What?
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I was small chested to go from
then
like,
it must have been really
an
shocking.
A to an almost D overnight was really impressive. But they get big, they get excited. There's not just milk. There's blood flow. There's new tissue growth. There's swelling.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea. Great intervention for a mom that's pretty engorged. Have her sleep on her back after feeding. And lightly massage her breast back toward her armpits, and sometimes ice, sometimes not, but sleeping on her back will allow the swelling in the breast to decrease. So that will take care of some of that engorgement.
Okay. What about cabbage leaves that people have talked about? What do you think?
Cabbage leaves have been used throughout time.
Yeah.
Caution with cabbage leaves.
Being what?
Don't want to dry yourself up. You don't want to go too far.
They work well.
They work. And in study, ice is effective. So it doesn't have to be cabbage leaves, or it could be. But, no other mammal puts cabbage leaves on their breasts. Right. Do we really need cabbage? Or we just need the baby to nurse effectively on demand?
Well, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know that I've watched this with so many people who have given birth, and how, helping them afterwards, in the days after, and from my own experience, that babies fall back to sleep often very quickly once they get on the breast. It's like, whew, I'm here. It feels good. I'm in their arms. I can hear their heart beating. It feels so nice and warm. Oh, I love this going in my mouth. It's so great. And they're back to sleep. And it's like the milk has not been enough. I mean,
yes. So here's it's kind of like where you can begin to tweak things a bit. And it's kind of like saying to your kid, you're going to eat your peas, and you can ask your baby, could you take a little more? You can massage a little into their mouth. You can stimulate them. It's okay to pester them a bit and say, if you're very full and the baby won't stay awake long enough to nurse, but they haven't, right?
Yeah.
Now, is that okay? Because we know, like I said before, in those tribal societies where moms nurse for 5 minutes, baby falls asleep, it's no problem for that mom. But for you might need to get other things. You might need her for various reasons to empty that breast completely at that time.
Right.
So it's okay. Stimulate the baby, massage, compress, see if they'll wake up.
Wake up the baby. And so another thing about that, I have two things, and I don't want to forget either one, so I'm going to ask them at the same time. Empty the breast, what does that really mean? And two, so you do one side, and then I remember baby falling asleep after nursing on one side, and it's like, oh my God, this other side though, you've got to nurse off of this side too, because I've got so much milk on my other side. And so what's the ratio or the balance, or how do we help them negotiate the, both breasts?
So I think in the very beginning, it's really important to offer both breasts. And I say that because, especially with a new mother, you don't know what kind of a producer you're going to be. And you don't know if your babe's going to be a 1 breast babe or a 2 breast babes. Like, some mothers can produce enough that they only feed from 1 breast. But that's not the norm.
Right.
Many babies need to feed from both breasts every time if we are having any kind of a spacing in our feedings. Right?
Right.
So I think it's real important to recognize as the baby's starting to fill up and get full, and the breast being empty, the breast is never completely empty.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I want to be clear on that for people, because I think most people understand.
Soft?
Yeah.
Is the breast gone from
Yes.
from hard and full and heavy to
that's what we're looking
that feels
for.
soft and
right.
that feels better?
It's like
that pressure is relieved.
If you had this milk in a container, you wouldn't necessarily drain the entire container in one feeding, one drinking. There would be some left in there, right?
So there may be a bit left in there, and then there's also some being made while the baby's nursing.
Right.
So, but you want to feel about where you have no more areas of hardness or fullness, and feeling good and empty. And and that's a thing that you learn.
Yes, that is
what that feels like.
It is.
You know when
I
your
agree.
bladder is full and empty. You know when your stomach is full and empty.
Right.
And you'll learn what your breast
feels. You feel
feels
a relief, I think, is really what it is.
It's like, oh, that feels good, and that feels
I'm feeling
good and
better
soft.
now.
And I caution moms not to do a little and a little, because there's hind milk. And so as the baby feeds, the milk is thicker. The milk is richer, the more fatty. So at the beginning of the feeding, it's a little more watery, and that satisfies the baby's thirst. And as the baby continues to nurse, it gets thicker and richer. So it's a good idea to feel good and empty on that first breast before you move to the second. But I'm always a fan of give them a quick burp. Maybe they'll burp, maybe they won't. No air in the breast. Give it a minute, but it kind of stirs them up again. Or before you see there's going into that, they're slipping into that sleep. It's okay to pop them on the other side. Say, please give me a little relief over here too.
And eventually, I remember, I didn't have to do that, but that was when they were more established in their age, and I could just nurse on one side, and then the next feeding I would nurse on the other side. But initially, I felt like, oh, no, you got to do both breasts, because both breasts need you to empty.
Right.
Take some of this off of me, because I'm going to burst otherwise.
So both breasts is your full potential.
Right.
So if you only do one, your baby only gets half, and you may only make half of what your potential is. So better to go for your full potential.
Right.
Now, moms that have had babies before and they know, and they're an overproducer, then they may,
and that would be me.
Different.
That was me. So that's what I'm really speaking from. You know what, Carrie? I feel like right at this moment, we should pause, and we should consider. I mean, I want you to have last thoughts here, but continuing this conversation into another dialogue, another podcast.
I'd be happy to.
Because I feel like you have covered the initial undisturbed and how we do. But what we didn't talk about is what happens when it is disturbed.
Yes.
Or there is a necessity.
Yes.
For it being disturbed, and how we help the moms, the people with this experience, and what are the risks to this if that happens, so forth and so on.
Yes.
And I feel like that's another whole episode.
That's where we can be even more helpful to moms and doulas and midwives, and that let's give them all the tricks.
Yeah, because I feel like we just painted the ideal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we know the ideal doesn't exist
If the
as
ideal
often.
existed, we'd be doing something else for a living,
Exactly,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And we know that it doesn't occur often enough. And so
Right.
I think it would be totally remiss if we weren't discussing the other variables here that are much, in some ways, more prevalent than what we experience regularly.
I couldn't agree more.
So, because I kind of cut you off, is there something you want to conclude with right at this moment, or that you were like, well, I wanted to say this, and ToRAISE?
Just love them.
Yeah.
As a support person, just love the mother. Just love the mother, love the babe. And I say that to the moms, just love them,
Right.
And I say stuff like, you're meant to be this baby's mother,
Yeah.
Just love them. And I don't think we focus on that enough either.
Right. And, the other topic, and we had somebody come in who did a lovely, wonderful job about low milk supply also, and her struggle with it, and the reality of that this was a truly something that she had to accept about her body.
Yes.
And her ability to breastfeed her baby. And, she has actually created a wonderful support group here in Richmond as a result of that, because unfortunately for those who have this experience, they often don't have good support around them. They feel, in some cases, really bad. In other cases,
it's just like birth.
Right. Exactly.
It's exactly.
And so
like
I think we can put that into the conversation as well, a little bit about from the lactation consultant's perspective. I mean, we had her perspective and what she learned through her own experience, but hearing, your professional side of it also would be really worthwhile. So I think I need you to come back.
I would love to.
I would love you to.
Because I feel like our conversation would be nowhere near complete.
No, it's not. We just
got started.
But for the sake of listeners also, it can be almost too much information at one time. So I'd rather
I agree.
It would be broken down. So for everyone who's listening, we will, Carrie and I will continue this conversation in another episode. But right now, I think we already have a great amount of information to move forward with. Here's my takeaways. Leave the baby and the mom alone when they are first born.
Yeah.
That hands off. Don't be quick to be trying to help get that baby to the breast and jamming the baby on the breast. Allow the baby to do what they need to do. The parent do what they need to do. If they are encouraging their baby to get on the breast, then they are encouraging their baby to get on the breast. But I heard you also say those first 3 feedings, you like to see them really do it on their own without the hands of somebody else. Really, I guess you can support, but you're not,
Don't do it for them.
Don't do it for them. And the least amount of disconnect between the mom and the baby, or the baby and another parent in the first 24 hours particularly is
first 3 days. Really.
Yes, I agree. And how we work with that in the hospital is a hard one sometimes, but babies can go in bassinets, and they'll be fine. But in that, I also heard if the baby is sleeping through that 24 hours, and not hand express about every 4 hours. You said no more than 4 hours, right?
I think hand expression every 2 to 3.
2 to 3. Just because we're giving the message to the body, this milk needs to continue to be produced. We're not done.
And it's such an enticement for the baby.
Exactly. And use that by putting it just on the baby's lips. and the baby will have that.
Paint the tongue and gum line with
Right,
it.
right. Even if the baby's sleeping, you can put that right onto the baby, and that might even wake the baby.
It often does.
Yeah. So great. Those are, and love the mother and love the baby, and the mother is the perfect parent for this
And the baby has a very, very commonly set pattern of behavior for the first several days.
Right.
They all kind of do about the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. And that is really worthwhile. So thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
We'll be talking to you again really soon.
I look forward to it.
Okay. I'll be back in a moment. Well, Carrie just left, and I really enjoyed my conversation with her. I hope you did as well. I wish I could film the conversation. She's got a beautiful smile, beautiful way of talking and expressing, literally with her hands, the experience of breastfeeding, and I can just see her passion and her knowledge that she must transmit to those that she's working with in the hospital. I feel like what a gift. If Carrie York walked in my room after having given birth and I had real no understanding or support around me with breastfeeding, or even if I did, but just her, I feel like she's a little bit of a light walking into a room that could be at times dark. So as we talked about, we will have Carrie back again and do a second episode, and we're going to talk more about when things don't go the way we just talked about, and certain issues that those who are breastfeeding can sometimes encounter, and how they can be supported through that. And so be listening in the future for another episode with Carrie. In the meantime, as I like to remind you, because I need to be reminded myself, take really good care of yourself. Find things that you love, and I know you may love this work, but find things outside of this work that you love and give some time and attention to it. And very important, spend time with people and things that make you laugh. I think we don't give enough attention to just finding the joy that brings us to laughter. So on that note, I hope everybody will be well, and I look forward to doing another episode with you in the near future.